Welcome back out to the front porch. Time once again for another episode of Monday Meditations. I hope your Monday's off to a great start. You're doing well and God's blessing you with this beautiful cooler temperatures that we have thanks to the rain yesterday. If you look at the book of Proverbs, we're emphasizing over and over again the concept of wisdom and using wisdom, the right application of the proper application of knowledge. That's one good definition of wisdom, the ability to see where any course of action may lead. But in this section, in verses 1 through 11, we're going to be looking at today, chapter 8, I want you to focus on that idea of value. And it reminds me of an old hymn that's been around for a long time and maybe new to you. You may not have heard it. You may sing it all the time. It's one of my favorites. It's titled, "Remind Me, Dear Lord." The first verse says, "The things that I love and hold dear to my heart are just borrowed. They're not mine at all. Jesus only let me use them to brighten my life. So remind me, dear Lord." The chorus says, "Roll back the curtain of memory now and then. Show me where you brought me from and where I could have been. Remember, I'm human and humans forget. So remind me, dear Lord." Beautiful song, beautiful sentiment, but also, as the title says, a reminder. What really is valuable to us in this world? There are things that we hold dear to our hearts, but they're not really ours. They're just borrowed, and we're entrusted with those as stewards. God wants us to use wisdom. Money, the love of money, is root of all kind of evil. You think about that with covetousness and how idolatry is viewed. Covetousness is viewed as idolatry, as Paul would say to the Colossian church. And how many times we put stock in things of this world when Jesus said, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures here on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, where thieves break through and steal. Rather lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, where thieves literally cannot break through nor steal." That's a powerful thought, isn't it? Wisdom says, I'm going to look to that end and not the things of this world. There's nothing wrong with having things. It's wrong when those things have us and they become our gods, and they become the real focus of value. But the wise man says wisdom is greater than all of those. It should stand out in our lives as something that we should seek, something that we can attain. And so let's look at Proverbs chapter 8, verses 1 through 11, again, keeping in mind the idea of the value of wisdom. He says, "Doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She standeth in the top of high places, by the way in the places of the paths. She crieth at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors." Verses 1 through 3, again, we have the personification of wisdom in the feminine sense. He puts forth wisdom as a loving female telling you something like a mother telling you, these are the ways, and these are the ways you should go. But he's also emphasizing here in this first 3 verses the idea of wisdom wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard. The first is a rhetorical question. The first verse, does it not cry? Does it not put forth its voice? Absolutely she does. You can hear that. She wants to be heard. She's on the top of high places where she can be seen. She's where the paths cross, and that idea of, picture, if you will, a preacher out in the middle of a field with people scattered everywhere wanting to be heard as he proclaims the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Picture, if you will, Jesus at the Sermon on the Mount as he has multitudes there in your mind, seeing those people gathered around listening to the words of Jesus as he would boldly proclaim the Beatitudes and how he spoke with authority, not as the scribes and the Pharisees. Powerful imagery there, but wanting to be heard is the idea. She cries at the gates in verse 3 again. The gates of the city would be where business transactions would be held. One of the first things you would note when you came into a city were the elders sitting there, business being conducted, contracts or agreements and covenants being made there in the city gates. And you recall in Genesis chapter 19, when the angels came to visit Lot and tell him that the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah would be destroyed, he met them where? At the gate, and brought them into his home to protect them as best he could. And so the idea here then is wisdom wants to be known. Wisdom wants to be seen. It is personified again in the feminine way. But then in verse 4 it says, "Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men." Now this may seem a little out of place. What is he talking about here? He's talking about the idea again of wisdom wanting to be heard, the value of wisdom and how he wants to be heard, but to all men, not just those that we think or we deem worthy of that wisdom. Someone maybe who is an academic, someone who's excelled in academics, or someone who is very successful and wealthy, or someone of a good pedigree or so forth. No, wisdom is for all mankind. And that's what he's saying there in verse 4. Unto you, O men, I, wisdom, call, and my wisdom, voice is to the sons of men, to all mankind. And he makes that even more clear in verse 5. He says, O ye simple, understand wisdom, and ye fools, be ye of understanding heart. Even those that would be outcast in the idea of the simple, those who lack understanding, who lack the knowledge that we may think they should have, or even those who are fools, those who foolishly reject the right ways. He says, don't stay in that position. You can have wisdom as well. Wisdom was made available to all if you want it, if you will take hold upon it, if you see the value in it. Wisdom, again, is the idea of correct use of the knowledge that we have. The idea of being able to see where any one of these decisions I make will lead as much as humanly possible. It's been tried, it's been tested. He's going to make that statement very clear as he continues that the wisdom that we're talking about here that's from above is true. It's trustworthy. Look with me at verse 6. Here, for I will speak of excellent things. I, again, is still the context. Wisdom personified here is speaking and giving forth this decree about who she, wisdom, is. It says, I will speak forth of excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things. Things that are upright, things that are truthful, excellent things, wholesome things. The very opposite of those perverse things that we sometimes have come out of our mouths. The perverse things that sometimes come out of our lives. And so he says, wisdom then is excellent. Wisdom is going to be truthful. It's going to be right. Look at verse 7. For my mouth shall speak truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. Sometimes we succumb to the temptations of this world, and wickedness comes forth from our lips. O generation of vipers, Jesus said, how can you, being evil, speak good things? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of the heart brings forth good things. An evil man out of the evil treasure of the heart brings forth evil things. But we should have that put away from us. We should not be having evil hearts and wanting to say things that just because that's what the world accepts, we're going to say that. If it's wicked, if it's froward, perverse, it needs to be avoided. And wisdom says, no, those things are an abomination to me. You can count on, if I say it, the wisdom, again speaking, if I say it, it's going to be truth. Wickedness is an abomination to me. It reminds me again of when Jesus was standing before Pilate, and Pilate asked him, what is truth? What a sad state for man to be standing in the very presence of truth himself and ask such a question. What is truth? Many are doing it today, though, with the truth sitting right in front of us. Many are sitting in pews every day with the truth right in their hands, but they don't see it. They're not willing to see it. They don't want to see it. Why? Because maybe they're not seeing the wickedness of this world as an abomination. We see how close we can get to sin. Sometimes wisdom says, no, those things are abomination to me. It's an abomination to my lips. Verse 8 says, all the words of my mouth are in righteousness. There is nothing froward or perverse in them. You can count on it. It's been tried. It's been true. Look at the examples throughout the scriptures of God's wisdom showing to be right over and over again. As he said there in the very beginning with Cain, if you do well, will you not be accepted? There's wisdom in that. Just do what's right. Choose life and live. Why will you die, Israel? The prophet would say over and over again, why will you choose this death when right in front of you is the opportunity for life? God will provide. He always has and always will, because all the words of his mouth are righteousness, and there's nothing froward or perverse in them, because he's the very epitome of wisdom, isn't he? He's the source of wisdom that Solomon had that he's talking about. Now verse 9. He says, they are all plain to him that understandeth, and right to them that find knowledge. If you want this, you can have it. That's what he's saying. Wisdom wants to be known. Wisdom wants to be had. It's in the high places calling out to us. It reminds me of what Jesus said, Matthew 7, verse 7. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Or in Matthew chapter 13, in the sermon that Jesus put forth of the sower going forth to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, some on the stony ground, some on the thorny ground. But some fell into the honest and good hearts. That honest and good heart was the one that received the word and brought forth fruit. But you have to have an honest and good heart. Or else the birds will come, Satan will come and snatch away the word of God. Or else the sun will scorch because you lack depth, or because the cares and riches of this world will choke out that word. But if you want it, it's made available. And here he is saying again, they're all plain. Wisdom, God's way is plain to those of understanding, those that understand, those who want to know this, and they're right to them that find that knowledge. They're the way that they're going to go. Look at verse 9. They are all plain to him that understands. Verse 10 rather. Receive my instruction and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. Here's where he brings it to the head and brings it to the point. The point is, the value of wisdom is greater than silver. If you have the choice between riches and wisdom, choose wisdom. Fine gold, tested gold, proven gold, pure gold. It's gone through the refinery. Wisdom is still of higher value. Or verse 11, for wisdom is better than rubies. Rubies were of great value. They still are of great value if they're genuine rubies. But wisdom is greater. Listen to this next phrase though. And all things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. You just stop and think about how much you and I can desire. There's nothing that we can desire that can even be compared, he says, to the wisdom that is from above. As James said, it's pure, it's peaceable, it's easy to understand. It's contrasted to the wisdom of this world, which is devilish, which is foolish. Will you not choose wisdom and live? Will you not see the value in that? Maybe we need to go back and sing once more. Remind me, dear Lord, of how valuable your wisdom is to our lives. And that's something on which we can meditate this Monday and every day. May God bless you till we meet again.